Hello and welcome to Royale Without Cheese, our bi-weekly podcast in which we discuss both the classic and the unknown of art and popular cinema from the then and now. We are your hosts, me, Miguel Aido, Tomás Ferreira. Hello,
Hey, hey,
Tomás.
hey.
Hi
Hello,
there.
hello.
And Leonardo Miranda.
What a fine day.
It is indeed.
Perfect day.
Today we talk about perfect days, but before any ado, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, or simply give us a like. Perfect Days is a 2023 drama directed by Wim Wenders, based on a screenplay written by himself and Takuma Takazaki. A co-production between Japan and Germany, the film combines 4 short stories and stars Koji Yakusho as a cleaner dedicated to life's small pleasures, whose past is revealed as he revisits those close to him. Having competed for the Palme d'Or in Cannes, the film ended up winning the Best Actor award for Yakusho. Yes, sir, a marvel of everyday Japanese life. But did the folks at Royale Without Cheese find the same joie de vivre in this another Wim Wenders tale? Friends, do come in.
Did we find the joy de vivre in this movie?
Joy de vivre.
Joy de vivre. Joy de vivre, compadre.
Compadre.
Joie de vivre.
So what do you guys think about Wim Wenders' latest? With an actor, I must add, Lenny knows
Very
him
good.
because he did Cure,
good.
a movie
Cure.
that I haven't seen yet.
Also,
but
he's in Pulse.
He's in
At the end of Pulse, in the boat. He's the
Oh.
boat guy at the
oh
end.
wow, okay, right.
Oh my
I mean,
god.
isn't it incredible how much he kind of aged? I mean, but you know, it's 10 years is a lot when you think about
No,
it. And
it's 10.
Aged.
no, I'm just
10
saying,
Isn't
I'm not
Pulse
saying that.
like from 2000?
Yeah, 20. But what I meant was in just 10 years you age a lot. So it's like 10 over 10,
okay.
so 20. That's what I meant. I
Ah.
didn't fully explain myself,
Okay,
my
okay.
rationale.
But he's all.
But yeah,
I mean, like.
he's 70, I
this
think.
guy.
No.
Koji Yakusho. Let me check. No, he's not that old. Maybe he is. But
Yeah,
he's always looked
It's
old.
probably 70ish.
He's 68, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But he's always, like, even in Cure, he already looks oldish. I mean, yeah. And in Pulse, he looks.
I saw an
like,
image of him and I was impressed.
I get like oldish. I mean, like he has a heavy face, I guess, like of the weight of life.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
suppose.
But great Japanese hair, like always.
Yeah, like
It's true.
Japanese man.
True, it's true. Great mustache too. Great
Good
mustache.
mustache. Like,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah. Lenny taking some tips.
Some tips. Nice. That's your technique.
Yeah. So, what did you like about
What
the
did you
movie?
guys
How did it
think?
vibe with you?
I mean, Taste of Cherry, there were moments there where I was kind of moved by some scenes, but in this one, like, by the end, I was really destroyed by this guy. I mean, it's such a wonderfully simple, nuanced film. I mean, I really enjoyed it. It's the films kind of share the fact that they are very simple narratives and a central character meeting in sort of in different encounters others, and we're learning a little bit about him. I mean, again, we kind of nailed how completely randomly how these two films ended up being connected, but yeah, it's true. It's a great film. And by the end, as I said, I mean that final scene, it reminded me of the one at the end of what was it, like that Mia Goth film that you guys reviewed.
Pearl.
Yeah, Pearl
With the
also
credit
ends with
scene,
her
yeah.
looking at the camera,
That Tomás didn't watch.
smiling and
Yeah,
crying.
for completely.
Turned it
But
off immediately.
this is how you do it. This is how you do a character looking at the camera, half smiling, half crying. This is how you do it.
Thank God that boat turn. I thought it was gonna be like, wasn't that amazing? Now this movie. And so,
No.
okay, fine, okay. You did clarify. My eyes were going to bulge out of my face, and I was going to enter in a panic attack or something.
Relax.
But I think I like
Relax.
the credit scene in Pearl. I think it's fine. I don't think it's bad.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. That I know I can't.
But
stop
this
the
is
words. Also
this
because I
is
didn't
done
watch
even
it.
better.
No, because this
Yeah,
is
of course.
actually like supposed to be emotional and it's sort
Yeah.
of works. although I don't like, to be fully honest, I'm not in total agreement with Miguel. It didn't really work for me, the film. Just, I don't
The
know.
film or the scene?
I
The
mean,
film
because
on
the
its
film didn't
entirety.
work, the scene also didn't
Okay.
Yeah.
work. I don't, there was something about it that just felt off. Very, I don't know, but I probably just wasn't in the mood. But yeah, it was a little, especially the first 20 minutes. I watched the film like 3 times, the first 20 minutes, just to see like what was wrong with me, because I first watched, I felt very cynical, when you're feeling very, very cynical towards the film, and then you're like, I'm being unfair. Like Tomás with, that was a film you mentioned that you felt that. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going
Probably
to turn
Past
it off.
Lives.
Was it Past
Probably.
Lives, Lenny?
I don't know. I don't remember, like, genuinely. But yeah, but I watched it a few times. Yeah, the first 20 minutes, there was something about them that I felt just very annoyed
Wasn't
at.
hitting home run.
Yeah, but then the film does get better, and I think it's, by the end, I'm more positive than negative, but I'm not a huge fan of it. Felt a bit, I'm not even sure why. Just, and then I watched Taste of Cherry, it's like so perfect for me that then side by side you can't help but be like, that other film. But yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
that's not fair. But I don't know. It didn't connect to it emotionally, so it just, that's all I saw was more the aesthetic side of it. Because I'm sure, like, if you connect emotionally to the film, then that just reinforces it and it makes it more beautiful. But because I didn't, and I felt too disconnected from the character, even though the actor is amazing, but there was something about it. I loved the routine of cleaning the toilets was my favorite part. That part, there's something very captivating about someone, like seeing someone do a job that you don't really pay attention to. I think that was for me the most interesting part of it. But yeah, but every time the film, like, he leaves the bathroom and then looks up at the sky and smiles, and I'm like, oh my god, you get it. Like life is beautiful, I know, but
Yeah.
if you acknowledge it so much, it loses its meaning, and suddenly it's not the poetry of everyday life. It's just, this guy really loves life. He loves the trees. It's gotta be more.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
true. It's true. I think I lie somewhere along the middle of you two. Kind of,
classic.
I lie in somewhere along the middle of you two. So, somewhere along the middle, because I wasn't exactly a fan, but I was touched by it in many of its visual instances. Do I put myself a lot in the middle, do you think?
No, I mean, a
Or
classic, like, usually
the
there's
third
one.
one always falls in the middle. Is that
Yeah,
what you
it's
mean?
like when we have disagreements, usually this is the lineup. One likes it, one is like, no, and the other's like, a little bit.
Yeah, because essentially, what, the thing is, regarding a lot of what you said, Lenny, I do agree with the fact that this is a routine-based movie, and there's a kinship with almost Jean Dillman in a sense. There's this very kind of routine, vulgar action of cleaning, of taking care of a place. In this case, we have the Tokyo toilet, which I think is a despicable thing to have on someone's back. It's not nice at all. I mean,
TTT.
they would have called it something else, but
Yeah,
the Tokyo toilet, come on, Jesus Christ, it's not very nice. And
I
the way
wouldn't be
people
surprised
treat,
if that's the actual name, actually.
yeah,
that's
and the way that people
so mean.
treat him is beyond like disrespectful. I would not treat someone like that if I was passing over. Like, you knock the guy's, the
Nah,
what do
that
you
guy
call
was
that?
drunk. That guy was drunk.
Yeah, I was drunk, but the other people, the mom that, he's with her kid, who was lost, your responsibility. And then she
Yeah.
doesn't say thank you, cleans her hands, looks sideways and goes away. I thought, bitch. And then later on, the guy that helps him, well, his assistant in cleaning the toilets, borrows his van and he's complaining the whole way, I was interacting with the film like, prick, asshole, like, and the guy is in the back, Jesus Christ. And then he wants to sell his fucking cassette, which is like the most precious thing to him. which I thought was a great kind of dramatic moment, just so naturalistic and minimal in the sense that that's his whole life, that music that probably keeps him up and running through this mundane thing of cleaning, which is not a job that he, I suppose, loves, but he makes something out of it, of course. And that's his one thing. And you see that the hymn to, what's the man's name?
Hirayama or something.
Hirayama, yeah.
Hirayama, right, yes. You see that to him, that's disturbing. You see, okay, something is happening to him. He's changing his mood. He's not that, because it's good when you see this kind of happy-go-lucky character who's always smiling and good with everything, good vibes with everything, being perturbed. I like that. And I think that aspect of things, although I do think that the character is very wholesome, and it's a very wholesome movie. It's a word I don't use often. And I do love the routine and seeing kind of a character that loves the simple pleasures of life. And most of all, I think it's a beautiful film in the sense of finding this thing which is so good, which is people with these kind of working class jobs that most people don't see, who are able to find in them, despite not being the thing that they dreamt with in life, make something out of it that is respectful, that brings honor to what they do. That's nice, because the thing is, for example, what I mean to say is that these are jobs that you don't think of the individual, but you think of the actions of the individual. You do appreciate that the toilet is clean. You do appreciate that the place is clean when you go in there. You love it. You just don't think about it. But once the individual ceases to be there to clean the place, you start thinking about it, unfortunately, not the person, because the person is always invisible. But if you think further, there was a person there to do it. And I think that the film, I mean, by giving visibility to those people, it's a film that thinks about it, about this thought of, if you do a job, whatever it is, honorable enough, you see how needed it is, from the trash man to the cleaning lady or whatever. He is needed there, just like a runner on set. You may think it's unimportant, but the guy holding the door in closed to keep the sound from coming in onto set because they are recording, that guy is important. The minute that guy stops having the door shut off, somebody's going to come over and complain, why didn't you do it? Because he's important. It's like a working bees in a way. Everybody has that kind of thing. It's a function within society. And I think finding the beauty in it, although it has its hardships, and bringing value to a person's job, it's cool, it's worthwhile, and that's very interesting. And the way it reveals also the culture of Tokyo, the way that bathrooms change in terms of their technology and their look, their architecture, I find that interesting. Especially that bathroom that changes like from opaque to invisible. That was like incredible. I was like, what is this?
Really cool.
Even when it is opaque.
What if that
I can still see.
malfunctions? That's a serious question.
Yeah, what if it malfunctions?
Blinking.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Somebody's there like, oh my god, fucking shit.
I wouldn't trust it.
Who did this? Yeah, so there's that thing to the movie, and balancing to the routine and the people treating him badly, kind of. You see how everyday people go inside and don't really see him. He's an invisible man. He does bring some sort of, it's a movie made of episodes, these circles where strangers meet strangers, a little bit like Taste of Cherry. People are vessels. You don't know their backstories, but the beauty of it is that these strangers touch each other. I think it's what essentially the film is about, and the route it decides to go. It doesn't try to build a narrative kind of construction in a traditional way, and I accept that, and I sort of like that. I just would like that the movie was a bit more disciplined with its narrative economy. It could well be a 1 hour and a half movie, because after the first dramatic moment where you kind of have his assistant going to the cassette shop trying to sell it to kind of get money, the cassette of Mr. Hirayama, and try to get money for the date with his girlfriend, and Mr. Hirayama says no, but gives his own money. And then later on he goes into his car and the car has no gas, and he is obliged to sell his cassette, which is an action that you don't see, to kind of get gas to get home. I love that. That was an amazing moment of dramatic kind of narrative writing and editing, just because in the moment the car stops, having seen that he lose all his money that he had on his wallet that day, you know that the only solution is the cassette, but you don't see him selling the cassette. It's invisible. Through a cut, you see him back in the vehicle going home. He now has gas. You know he sold the thing. And that's great. the story is infused with drama. You see him sad. It's a contradiction to all that happy moments of seeing the trees, the gardening that he brings home, kind of creating a little bit of Tokyo inside his own home. That's lovely. But then we come back to the routine and the sameness of every day that we've seen before. And that's kind of the setup. And for a long time, until something else happens of kind of dramatic tension, takes a long time. And we kind of hint at this interiority of him through his dreams, but his dreams don't really change. It's also kind of the same sameness. It's the trees. I love them, visually speaking. It's kind of this beautiful kind of tree shadows seen through windows and all the kind of the textures of different glass and everything in wood. But I don't know what this is trying to suggest. You know, it's like, okay, it's the echo of what he sees in his everyday life, what he has seen on that day, sure, but and what is of his interiority, as the synopsis of the film hints, that his past is going to be unveiled. Eventually it is, and it's hinted at in a beautiful way. But what I mean to say is that it should have been hinted at more specifically earlier, because from the moment that you have him helping his assistant, losing his cassette, losing everything that he really liked, that doesn't really affect his everyday life. And I was hoping it affected a little bit, that it disturbed it. You know, Jeanne Dielman, despite being the sameness of routine, you see her routine breaking down, kind of, you know. So I wanted that. How does this routine that he supports with full vigor and willingfulness, bringing his kind of set tools onto the scene to make these toilets shine, and he's happy with it, how does that happiness kind of break down? Never does, because he always goes there. You know, you see him on the toilets, coming back to the restaurant, eats something, going to the bath, and he's always I'm making bubbles in the bath. You know, he's always like always happy, you know, making bubbles in the bath. Oh, how good, you know. So okay, fine, all goes well again. I just hope, you know, from that last moment of drama to the other next moment of drama, which is when his niece comes home and doesn't say anything. And that scene is treated very well. Great subtlety. You learn about the father being ill and how he has a different attitudes towards life. And then you have the reuniting with the sister, who is kind of in another world, you know, she's rich, you know, up in another stratosphere of living. And you see how they have different attitudes towards his father, who is ill, who is forgetting, maybe Alzheimer's. And through that, without very little being said, you feel the drama again, and you feel how painful it is for him, in the sense that, you know, to a degree, I think he lost his wife. I kind of read that into the story. Maybe he was married once. He goes to the cemetery once, and he feels. The story I make up in my head, and I think the film is open to interpretation in that sense, which I like. It has that mystery that is good, in the sense that Taste of Cherry uses mystery, gives you enough detail so you can make the seams of your own story that works within the film and brings emotional poignance. And so it's almost like he became a hermit after a while. That's why he's shut off from the world. He doesn't want to speak with anyone ever again. He doesn't want to see his father. He just wants the memories of it. He just wants to see him probably lived in through the trees, you know, through the books, you know, has, you know, humans become part of Earth again, you know, I just see a spirituality when he looks up at those trees, how we become molecules again inside the earth and back up again in the air, you know, and that's what I read into it. He decides to be shut off, to not interact with people, especially those close to him, because he just finds it easier after the death of his wife. And that's very interesting. And even if he wants to connect, he just stays on that path. But I just wish there was just something. Either this moment of reunion had come earlier, or little breadcrumbs were put in the way of discovering this path. You know, in that moment, that is great, between that last traumatic moment with the assistant and this one. And then again, after this, we kind of let go of that, and time goes by. And then he later on influences somebody else. He stumbles upon the lady in the bar, reuniting with her ex-husband who has cancer, and then he has a playful moment with him, and it's like, haha, I'm gonna catch your shadow, no, catch mine. So I made you feel happier for one night, and that was it. So I don't know. I get the function of it in the narrative. Oh, his wholesomeness touches people and makes him happier. Touches the girl that was the girlfriend of his assistant that cleans toilets with, and then she gives him a kiss. We don't know anything more about her, but we understand the function of the thing and how he's this sort of angel passing by the lives of these people, you know, his assistant, her, you know, his niece, that guy, you know, his wholesomeness kind of pours into the lives of others, making them feel well, because he has this detachedness. Now, this is not quite the right word, but he has this detachment. He has this detachment from, these relationships, in a way that he can feel life in this playful way, in this serene way. So I guess that's where the movie is trying to go for. Take it easy, man. In this sort of way. Listen to your music. Enjoy the little small pleasures of life, and yeah, you will come through. But ultimately, I think that it is missing that narrative economy, that I think it indulges itself a bit too much, I guess, in that wholesomeness, that it makes the character kind of indestructible. So even when he cries, it's easily solvable, that goes away, and it doesn't create enough of like a narrative mystery for us to inquire about what happened to this character. At the beginning you are, but then it starts to abuse a bit of your patience at times after that first traumatic incident with the assistant. You're like, okay, because it settles back to the visual behavior they already had before in the setup. So it's like, okay, where are we going? And it takes a while until it gets back up. Nothing that disgraces the film. I think it's a solid film, but yeah, I had that problem with it.
Right. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I understand the narrative efficiency thing because, but I mean, it's tough because if you want to show routine, you have to have multiple scenes of him doing basically the same things, but in different angles, and introduce some variety through that. So, it's tough. I think maybe once or twice, I think we could have avoided seeing some of the same actions, but ultimately I think it's also important because you're really trying to make the point that this guy has the same life every single day and the same wholesomeness every single day, the same joy, but ultimately the most important thing is to show that he has some fragility to him. And I think that him meeting his sister and then crying, the different times that he's caught off guard in some encounters, especially with the girlfriend of that worker guy, you see that fragility. So more than, yeah, I mean, you were saying that, yeah, but in connection to what you were saying, I mean, it's not that we're trying to show that he's indestructible. I think whatever fragility we can show of him is important, is enough. And I don't think we needed more scenes to see that something bothers him and that he's not entirely happy. And I think that it's plenty what we see of him, and the scenes where we can see that something else is going on. So for me, just a hint at fragility is enough, and I think it's part of the interest is that we don't entirely get it, but something bothers him that is disrupting his day-to-day life, and that's kind of enough because you don't really need a lot of drama to make yourself feel lonely or feel sad or feel distressed by something. Sometimes just something here and there or an encounter with someone is enough. And part of it for me that's interesting is that it didn't need a lot of drama, a lot of dramatic turning points for him to become like that. It just needed something that someone said to him, his sister, or a memory that sometimes it's hinted at the dreams. And I agree it's not entirely well done, I think, because it's not very.
The dreams are very repetitious. They don't really add.
Yes.
They are the key to his internal affairs, and really, the dreams could be the place to hint at something, a face, and the face only appears once. So, actually, that would be enough for me. If something happened there, because sometimes
becomes more like a visual thing. Yeah. It becomes more. It's a visual thing that's. You kind of feel like he's emulating dreams with the spectral side of it and the black and white and everything, but then narratively you don't really see the information. And I think it's one of the aspects that could have been better handled.
I mean, I think to me the dreams are like suggesting his artistic side, like his spirit, with the photographs, like
Yeah.
because it's like his
Yeah, that
dreams
I
are these
understand. Yes, of
trees and
course.
things, and then he takes photos of the trees. It's like he's trying to put his like to see his dreams, or that it's the artistic vision, whatever. I felt a bit. I didn't particularly like it either. It felt more like punctuation because it was always the same as you were saying, so
Yeah,
it didn't really
exactly.
work. But I get the purpose. It's sort of like Patterson writing the poems, but in Patterson you get access to the character through the poems and what he's writing, what he's taking from his life and putting into the poems. Whereas here,
Yeah.
not really. So, yeah, but it's a different medium, so I get that. Like the dream and the photograph are more abstract, I suppose. So it's more you see a face, you see what you see there. It's different, but I don't know. It could have been done more to suggest the interiority, as you were saying, of the character.
Mhm.
Yeah. And for
Yeah,
example, to me,
and
I
if
think.
it's
Mhm.
no, just it's very quick. Just if it's connected to the arts, then it's even more repetitious because it's something we already knew from this day-to-day
Yeah,
life that
Yeah.
then we see again in the dream.
exactly.
So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, if it was something else, it could have been even more informative, but that's the case. It's less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you,
Definitely.
Tomás.
And now you.
Yeah. No. Just commenting on what we came up here with the dreams. I think he. To me, it's sometimes it's about that turn of the screw. If just visually, not more drama essentially. Sometimes not about that, but sometimes just about that narrative economy. Not indulging so much on the routine. The routine, of course, needs to be repetition. I'm not saying not to not have the routine, but just be a little bit more disciplined with what you show. How many times you show it, more like that. And then the dreams could have sufficed to hint at something silently, without saying a word, without no conversation, without nothing else. And that would be enough to give the last step for the film, perhaps, and that will be it. But yeah, um, yeah, that's essentially it. That's what I was hoping. More of the dreams, essentially, right from the beginning. You see those dreams and you think, okay, something is going to be revealed here. No, really, it's just a repetition of sorts. I do like that the film, in this sense of the working class man, the cashier, the toilet cleaner, that it feeds this idea of seeing what used to be invisible. Just because he's a toilet cleaner doesn't mean that he doesn't read, doesn't mean that he doesn't listen to good
Yeah,
music.
it
Kind of
humanizes the
breaking down
character.
stereotypes, humanize the character. It's not invisible. It's not a thing. So I do appreciate that. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you do get hints at why he has this character. Not saying that he can't be part of who he is, but I mean the fact that his sister is so rich, and that we have hints of something that happened between them, kind of makes you think that perhaps it shows purposefully a simpler life to run away from a bit of the drama that rich families might have. So it felt a bit purposeful in a sense, less so that he is truly a simple person, but more like perhaps he was more in contact with that life before and he distasted it, and now it shows something a bit more in tune with who he is.
Because it is it is an interesting point, because when he does meet his sister, she does say, "Are you cleaning toilets?" As if that wasn't his destiny, as if maybe he has a bachelor degree or a master's in something else. Maybe he's skilled for something else, but he chose that life and he's happy with it. And yeah, I think that's interesting. Was yet another idea about this. Yeah, kind of the more rich you are, the more difficult it is to divide things amongst family. Go with all properties and stuff, and brothers are jealous and all that. There are fights, conflicts, even when you're adults, especially in those questions of inheritance. And with a father like that, in the end of his life, you could imagine such arguments could have taken
Yes,
place
and
between
there's
them.
a certain expectancy of what one should be doing because one is in a family of money, so it's like it becomes unthinkable for you to legitimately want to have a simpler life or have simpler tastes. It's like it can happen. It cannot happen because you have money. So what the hell are you doing? Not using it. And I think that's an
Yeah.
interesting duality to think about families with people that have these different tastes and how they cope with one another. And perhaps it creates divide, and I think in this case it does, or it did. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's like also when the sister was revealed to be very rich, I was a bit like, okay, we have a story about a toilet cleaner, and he has to be rich. Couldn't he just be a guy, a normal guy? Why does he have to be rich? It just feels a bit, I don't know. I like the setup of, it's just a normal working guy. He's cleaning toilets. He relatively, he enjoys what he doesn't love it. It's not like the dream job, but he has built a routine that he appreciates.
Yeah.
And I like that. And then suddenly it's like, oh, it's a rich guy who's like, he's having a more simple life. It's like, I don't know.
But I think the lesson
You
is
think it
It's
transforms him
because
into a
of that.
special one? You think it transforms him into a special one by adding the rich category? It makes him special more than the average man, than the ordinary man.
It felt
Yeah.
a bit like that, yeah. I know.
It's interesting
think
thing
it's a
because
bit-
I think you can see it from two angles. Like I
Yeah,
could
exactly.
see the
I
interest.
get what you mean as well, and I think
at
what
the
you said
same
is
time, I
fair.
understand.
It makes
Yeah.
makes sense. Because it is interesting is like denial of money. Like when the guy wants to sell the cassettes, he refuses to sell them, even though they're worth a lot of money. And that's an interesting idea because like the cassettes are worth more by themselves. Like you want to play them, that's the point. So if you sell them, you lose the music, and so why would he sell them? And I think his refusal for that kind of wealth, like let's say wealth, would be a lot of money, but not the kind of money the sister is making, I suppose. But still, it is a lot of money that he's saying, no, I don't need that. I prefer to have the cassettes. And I thought like that was a very beautiful moment. But then with the sister, I think it's a different. It does create a different idea, but it also makes his decision not to sell the cassettes, I guess, more sensible in the sense that it is a total refusal of wealth. That like it goes even further than that. It goes to like this family is very rich, and he could be asking her for money, and he isn't. He's more content with enjoying the simple pleasures of life and having this routine. And it makes it more powerful, like when the routine is disrupted, as you were saying, especially when his assistant quits and suddenly he's really like you feel an annoyance in the character that you didn't feel before, and I really like that because like
Yeah, that
just
was very
because
interesting.
just because you appreciate your routine doesn't mean that like you can just do whatever the fuck you want and like suddenly, oh, cleaning more toilets, that's awesome, I love cleaning toilets. No, it's like, no, I don't want to
Yeah.
clean more toilets. Like
Yeah.
I need help here, and like I really
And the thing is, he gets
enjoyed
annoyed,
that.
but that doesn't really last or anything. He gets annoyed, but it's easily
solved
solved.
very
He
quick,
gets a new
yeah.
assistant.
Exactly.
So yeah,
because
but
the
those
next
are
day
the richer
they hired a
moments,
new one.
indeed. So yeah. But those are the richer moments, really. When you get that kick of pleasure, is when the wholesomeness breaks and you see him annoyed, or you see him disturbed, or you see him frustrated, which doesn't happen often.
And that's kind of another hints of his sort of duality, of his almost fragility, because you see that it's not entirely something completely of his character. It clearly has something to do with what happened to him, and that's the interesting part, is that it's always on the edge of something else that happened. It's like it's chasing him, and that the final shot kind of reflects that, because he isn't entirely happy, and the things start to unravel, and it clashes at the end.
You
But I
see when he
mean,
smiles at the end with
yeah,
that
with the
shot.
final shot, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a final
He's
realization
not
of
entirely he's not entirely happy in that moment.
I mean, yeah, it
He's
clearly
crying and
he feels more lonely than he's willing to admit. I think that's, for me, it was right, kind of clear, because
He
otherwise I
felt
don't
super
think he
happy
would
to
have.
me.
No,
I
I
just
mean,
felt
I
like
think
such an uplifting ending in a way. I don't know. I didn't translate
Are you
that.
serious?
I am serious. Like, I understand the
Nah.
logic of what you're saying because of all that has gone through, but that shot, the way that he portrayed, I just felt like in the music, I just felt like, okay. I mean, I don't. It felt so. How should I say? Closure, sense of closure. It felt ending.
No,
It felt
I
like
felt
okay, conquering. The sun shining, his face, the big smile. I was like,
like a
I
cathartic
honestly
thing.
felt that he was, yeah, cathartic. That was a sense of taking up the hill and, whoa, like.
I mean,
I do
for
get what
me,
you're
it
saying
was
because of
for
what
me, it
has
was
gone
like,
past.
I mean,
But
he keeps smiling at most things. So for me, this final shot is like he can't completely do that anymore. He wants to smile, but the tears keep coming back to him. So he's clearly being overwhelmed by whatever feelings he was putting behind, whether it's loneliness or sadness or grief or whatever. But for me, it felt more like a clash between these two emotions, and the fact that he can't quite smile like he was smiling up until this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
It's not so much like this.
interesting.
It's more like.
No, because it's very nuanced. I mean, it's very.
I know.
Very,
I'm just kidding.
It's very
Yeah.
well acted to kind of make that to make it hard to understand what he's going through. But but there are
Yeah.
moments where from the acting, where you can clearly see that he's smiling, but then he can't hold it anymore. And for me, there are moments there that are key to understanding that it's two emotions clashing.
Don't you find interesting, going to another detail in the narrative, this woman that he keeps meeting in the park and who looks at him like a little pervert? Like, I don't know what that was, because they kind of exchange looks, and she's like, okay, what is
And
going on there?
there's also
3
the
times.
sort of guy that keeps like making gestures towards the sky. It kind of seems like he has some mental problem.
But that I could place some more or less in the circumstances of his story, because I thought about his father somehow, that his father's losing his sanity, so he probably sees some kind of empathy for that man, alone without his mind, losing it. The woman alone, I was a bit. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to say about this.
I thought it was just like they have lunch at the same time every day, and so they just like look at each other a bit like.
And
"Oh,
he's a
we're
very
here."
empathetic man, so he smiles at everybody and
Yeah,
No,
tries
I
to
get
be
it, but
nice
the
to
woman is so
everybody.
specific. You understand? The woman is so specific in how she looks at him that it just demanded a little bit more from me. Like, what's the story there? What's gonna
I
happen?
guess, yeah.
But then it's not a thread that goes anywhere. I just feel like she's a loner. Will they be romantically involved? Will she try? I don't know. It raised all those questions to me. I don't know. I just wanted to see the next encounter, and maybe she would go up to him, say something awkward. It would end there, but then you would see what would be that character's intention. You wouldn't just be, okay, second encounter, and she's still sitting there, she's still giving the same look. You'll be, you understand. This is one of the things with the film, is that the repetition, but the repetition of the sameness. Nothing new was added, and that kind of second encounter. Maybe she's just another loner, and she touches her with her wholesomeness and gives something back to her, just like he has given something back to the others. And that, okay, when you add something for a reason, whether the film is more minimalist or less,
Yes, but you can also
traditional in
interpret
its
it.
structure. And that one character was a little bit perplexed in its
You can also
usage.
interpret it as he didn't add anything, also for a reason. I mean, there's a point to him just seeing the same person doing the same things, and it not being more. I think, for me, it didn't bother me at all that didn't come to anything else, because honestly, it just reveals his sympathetic nature. He's nice to everybody, smiles, and the other person doesn't need to necessarily smile because they're not like him. So she'll just awkwardly smile or kind of look and gaze, and it's just a manner of showing how different people are. And I think in that way it's effective. It shows how he is, it shows how that woman is, and it also shows how she doesn't change, how random people and strangers might not evolve, might continue being strangers and awkward people and distant people. And I think that's also interesting, as what it's trying to convey.
I have no more to say. I don't.
I'm good.
Don't think so.
I mean, just a thing, because the whole thing about him coming from a rich family. I think I agree with what you said, but at the same time, I think it's relevant that that's his background, because otherwise, if you really think about it, he'd be like a toilet cleaner guy who is very intellectual and has an interest for these things. And somehow I think that's even more inexplicable than if he comes from a rich
Nah,
family.
what? I'm totally disagree. I totally disagree now.
No,
What?
because
No.
no, because let's face it. I mean, it's not a job that you would have if you could have most of the times. So you kind of have to have a very strong reason for it. And for me, it'd be more inexplicable if you didn't have any reason, if you just had an interest for that. than the ones that we have in this film, where he kind of let go of a more complicated life, and now we see this, and that is explained by the fact that his family is rich. You know,
But you were
I'm not trying
implying
to
earlier
be.
that he
Yes.
needs to read and to like good music. He needed to be rich and had an education. So that's what you were saying
No, no,
just
no.
now.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying
Oh,
that
okay.
it's explainable to me in the way the film is constructed. Um,
Yes,
rather
I
if
guess you
he
can insert
if
that there, but to me it was not necessary. I mean, legitimately, he could have made the option of him not coming from a rich family, and that would be fine. Uh, I find interesting that he does come. You know, I come from that angle. I find it interesting. I do find it interesting that he rejects the richness to opt for this life. I also see Lenny's point of view. You know, I think that makes him more special than the average man. That has something to be said. But regarding the bit of the books, and it doesn't do any, in terms of explaining that to me, it doesn't do, I get it. Perhaps it inserts itself there, the him being culture or whatever, but I don't see it so much like that. This is one of the problems, you know, by making him rich special, then you get to the idea that, oh, of course, if you could only like books and, you know, music because he was born rich and has education, so think about him because he's too special. But I like the idea that, you know, the reverse of the coin, that no, it's not because he's rich that he likes books and etc.
For me, it's just the different traits kind of point to the fact that he probably comes from a rich family, because you start to trying to, delineate the sort of person that
What
he
other
is.
traits? The books, the music,
The fact
something
that
else?
he's awesome. No, because try to think about a toilet cleaner that is
Uh-huh.
intellectual. I mean, it's hard to understand what that person would be, because if he enjoys the job whilst being an intellectual, I mean,
Well,
it makes you
he
wonder
doesn't
what
need to
the
be an
background that he has.
intellectual. He doesn't need to be
No,
an intellectual on
just a
that
word
sense of
I'm
the word.
using to say
All
that he
right, to
likes
describe.
music and photography. Just
But
I'm just trying
it's a
to
very
understand what
specific
sort of
word.
person he would be, because
You know,
because
I
if he
knew the
was
story of
because if he was an artist that failed to have a career, he'd probably not be as awesome and a bit more bitter working as a toilet cleaner. So I'm just
Yeah.
trying to understand the person,
not
like who would
necessarily. I don't
have
know.
these traits, who would be an intellectual
I
and a
get,
toilet cleaner and
I
also
get what you
wholesome. I
mean.
mean,
Like
it's
he has an appreciation, I guess, or I see more or less what you mean, that in the sense that he has taken a conscious decision to live a certain life and live a certain wealth, and decided to have a more like bare bones life, and
Yeah,
that's
I do
why
understand that logic too. Yeah.
he's able to be more appreciative of the lifestyle and be less like, you know, when a guy knocks down the sign, he doesn't, oh, go fuck yourself, he doesn't say that. He's like, ah, life, you know, he's drunk. He's more, yeah, he's taken a more positive outlook because he's chosen to do this. Whereas if someone was, you know, doing this just as any other job, like if someone mistreats you like that, you're going to at least
Yeah.
like show a bit more of bitterness and you know, I don't know, conflict. So I get
just
what you
trying
mean,
to
but I also
understand
think
how you would have this sort of character. I mean, he has to have a certain
Mhm,
background specifically, and that's why I think it doesn't. I mean, the fact that it's from a rich family, maybe it might not be a rich family, but at least a cultural family that some had those interests. I mean,
mhm.
I'm not saying the rich part is the important part, just that it makes sense to explain then who he is with all his traits and not being bitter and being so joyful, I think.
Mhm. I mean, but for me, it's just I would like if he was more bitter and less joyful. I would like if he was a bit more, if there was more, you know, if he if he got annoyed more often at people being
Dramatic
shitty to
tension.
him. Yeah, because it
Yeah,
is a bit, it feels a bit
it's true.
phony at times that he's so like, ah, isn't this life wonderful?
Yeah.
It's like, ah, it feels
Isn't it
very,
life?
you know,
You know, it is interesting because it is a movie where the character, for the most part, doesn't talk, doesn't say much, and that can be challenging. And I think
mhm,
the fact of the matter is that you don't stay in the moments for very long to see a reaction. It's just small reaction, so you move on to the next thing. I've edited a short film where one of the characters in a conversation does not speak for the entirety of the short. It's just the other person talking. It comes from a theater play, so that's challenging. You know, the people, because it is a short, because it is a scene essentially. You are there. The whole story revolves around that. and the viewer, whether you like it or not, becomes aware of the silence of the person. While in this feature length, it's easy to escape the awkwardness of that silence more, because there's a lot eye candy and things to, there's the next scene and the next scene and the next thing he does. But yeah, sometimes you do wonder, shouldn't he react? Shouldn't he say something? But okay. Yeah.
Yes, he's an extremely Japanese man.
Japanese man.
Yeah. I mean, at times I thought, here it's like, because I know this is done by Wim Wenders, but I thought the film looked at Japan a bit like touristically, let's say, like a bit, there's some shots of the skyline, some shots of like the the buildings like panning up, and the camera going back. It's like I have my doubts that a Japanese filmmaker would film it this way, especially when you're like, again, this is not lost in translation. These are not Americans, upper class bourgeois, super.
Yeah.
It's not that type of character would go to Japan and feel like an outsider and feel like, whoa, isn't this amazing? Like, it's a Japanese guy living there. So there were moments in the filmmaking that I felt a bit like it didn't make sense to film some moments like the buildings like this. But this is nitpicky, admittedly, but I just felt it a little bit.
And that's all for today. If you'd like to reach out and suggest a film for the next episode, you can find us on the podcast official Instagram and Facebook pages. Feel free to subscribe, share the episode, or simply give us a like. That's how our podcast can grow ever groovier. And if you're on YouTube and want to see more videos like this, check out the next video right here. Thanks for listening and see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.